Hi, this is a Curvy 3D tutorial showing you how you can export animations from Curvy. I'm going to switch into posing mode, either using edit options or by pressing U on the keyboard. Once we're in posing mode, we can now edit our animation. We need to bring up a couple more panels to help us with animation. Drag this panel off. The anim panel, which gives us a timeline at the bottom, and the clips panel, which is a list of all of the sub animations which make up our total animation. So here we've just got a couple. We've got a walk anim and a simple attack animation in the clips panel. Quite often with games you'll want to render out a character from a variety of angles, and this is why in the clips panel there's an empty clip beginning with capital R, and that tells us which angles we're going to export out of. So in this case we're exporting R-60, -120, -180, and those are the three angles in degrees which we're going to render out. Just playing with the onion skinning so you can see earlier and later frames. I described this in my previous animation video on YouTube. You can basically set the range and the number of onion skin frames you need. For each part of the model you want animated, you need to turn on animated in the object properties, and then it'll remember the positions as it moves. We've also got mirror loop turned on this clip, which means if we move the right hand, then the left hand will move in the other half of the animation. So you can see now we've moved one hand up, and now the opposite hand has moved up as well. This also works on objects in the middle, which are followed by a capital C on their names. So if you twist, say, the chest left halfway through the walk, then in the other half of the cycle the chest will also automatically twist right. So you can see the onion skin frame on the opposite hand is moving, showing us that the the animation is looping, and the left side and the right side are looped copies of each other. Okay, so I've shown you before this empty clip with a capital R and then -60, -120, -180 says which angles of the frame we want to render out in our screenshot to sprites. So if we want to change that, and maybe we want it to be facing the camera and then in 45-degree steps, we can do 0-45 -90 -135 -180, and those will give us 4 angles facing right, and we can use mirroring in our game engine to do the same frames facing left. We can set the step, so at default now we're running at 24 frames a second, but we're only going to export 12 frames a second. So we're going to use a render step of 2 to skip odd numbered frames. And then we're going to pick an export location. It's a good idea to export to a fresh folder, so you can keep your animations organized. And if you give it a short name, it'll add on the name of the clip and the angle and the frame number. So you end up with lots of frames, and they're all named sensibly, so you can access the angle and the frame you need. Once that is exported, we get all of the clips and all of the frames in all the different angles, saved out to our folder. They're reduced to the render dimension, so usually your sprites will be a lot smaller than the screen size they're appearing on Curvy, which is good because they anti-alias as they shrink. If you're using the sprites in the game engine, you'll want to export them all to an atlas. So when you export to an atlas, it searches all of the folders next to where you've saved your atlas file and copies all of those images into one big atlas image. And it also exports a text file which tells you the location of each sprite and also the location of like the anchor point for each sprite. So even though the sprites are trimmed down to the smallest fitting space, your anchor point will want to be exactly the same for each of them, otherwise they'll flicker around and all over the place. Let's just show you the script I used. In this case, it's convenient if you're going to load them up into an HTML JavaScript project, but you can use the same text file to load into most programming languages if you use the preprocessor or define your own types for simage and build atlas. Okay, there's another type of export you can use. Instead of specifying each individual angle you want exported, you can use a step export. So the step is again an empty clip beginning with S this time, and there's 3 numbers in here separated by dashes, and the first 2 are the beginning and end angles, and the last one is the how many degrees to step with. So in this case we're using 0 to 360, so that's a complete revolution, and we want to step by 10 degrees, which will give us 36 exported frames in each direction. And you can see once we've saved out these frames, the model is copied out once every 10 degrees in all the different angles. You could use this just to do a spinning animation. So if you use a small step size, you could then load those images up into an animation program and save them out as a GIF or a MPEG of your model spinning around in a 360 rotation. Final type of animation we have is we might want to export out the 3D information to animate in 3D in a game engine rather than animating sprites. And there's 2 ways you can export this. You can click Export Anim, which will save out a text file with the rig, all your objects names, and animation matrices for each part of that object, just as a text file, and it should be fairly self-explanatory. It's got the list of all the objects in the scene with their hierarchy, a list of the clips and their lengths, and then a list of all of the matrices in each clip for each animated part of that model. And finally, we can also save to the gtTF format, which saves a mesh and its animation data in a suitable format to load up into game engines such as Unreal. When you export gtTF, it's got a short text file describing what you've exported and a bin file with all the binary data, which lists all of the matrices for each animation, for each frame. And that's about it. I'll be recording some more animation tutorials in the future, so do subscribe to Curvy 3D, and thanks for watching.